as in, or well, shit, maybe they were by then. Or at least halfway. But, yeah, it was still mostly like the eastern half of the continent was really states, but, you know, it was still growing. So what the southern states did, especially when they were under the Confederacy, or at least gearing up to be, is so they obviously a person who was enslaved obviously was not really considered a person, which is obviously its own problem in and of itself that I don't, condone. But which also, of course, meant that they were not allowed to vote. However, so before, I guess predating the Civil War, like kind of going up to it, maybe I don't know the dates. I just know like the general stuff. But apparently, so where they had a problem was the northern states who had already abolished slavery. Those people were allowed to vote, right? So what you ended up with was the northern states had exponentially more voters than the southern states, which for any in-state thing, that's not really a big issue. But for something as the president, that basically meant that the southern states didn't really have hardly any representation because they just didn't have the voters. So what they did is they basically spearheaded the idea of creating this thing called the Electoral College, which somehow made they could still count the enslaved as part of their population without letting them vote, and then the percentages would kind of make an even balance between the northern and the southern states. And I'm still not entirely sure how it works, and I don't really need to because it's bullshit. And well, most people would agree that it needs to go away, especially now that we don't even, well, technically we don't have slavery anymore, but this is humans and the world that we're talking about. So there's bullshit going on everywhere.